We can't have lazy parents.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be the hard one on that. Like, there's a lot of parents who are like, oh, whatever, they'll figure it out. Like, no, it is your job to help them do these things. You can't, and they're not going to do it on their own.
Yeah.
It's a reason like that we're having this conversation to encourage parents to do the tummy time, because if you don't, they're going to be late doing other things, which leads to another thing, which is just like compounds.
Yeah. And it's a fine line too of like, we have access to all this information about child development, right? Like you could scroll on Instagram or blogs or websites through the CDC or all these different organizations, and it's all in your face of here's how your baby should be developing. Here's what you should do with your child.
You start to feel bad about it too.
Exactly. And that's what we don't want either, right? So how as parents can we take this information in, being mindful and intuitive about it and using it as a resource and a tool rather than like just feeling like we're in a constant flux of information and feeling like we're behind and not doing enough.
I know.
Right?
I felt like that recently because everyone was asking me if my daughter was walking yet. And she was like 12 or 13 months old. I'm like, is she walking yet? And I'm like, no, not yet. But she's like, you know, she'll pull up, stand up on the couch and kind of cruise down the couch a little bit or whatever. But she just like, you try to get her to take a step and she's like straight to the floor and she's like, nope. So anyways, you know, people ask, is she walking yet? Is she walking yet? You're like, no. And then you're like, man, is she like really behind? Should she be walking? I feel like everyone's asking if she's walking. She's not walking. Like is there something wrong? And you're like, no, everything's fine.
Yeah, you start to panic because you get all these voices and it's like, it's nice that you've got access to all this information, but yeah, I think it's important.
It's overwhelming.
To consume it responsibly.
Sure. Well, right? And that's the same thing with pregnant women. Poor women. Gosh, you read stuff on the internet and you're like starting to self-diagnose and like, oh God, everything's terrible, you know? Yeah. And everything's fine.
Yeah. That's with anything though, you know?
It is. It is anything. Mm-hmm. Like you start typing in a symptom into Google or WebMD or something, suddenly you've got like the worst thing ever. And you're like, yeah. It's like, no, you were just constipated or something. You know, it's like really not that big of a deal. But the walking thing was crazy. And she's still, she can walk and she does from time to time, but she much rather just be crawling. She's like so much faster. And we've certainly anticipated that she would have been walking sooner because she has two older sisters, you know, that are 11 and 8. And they're just like cruise. I mean, that was the same thing with our first daughter, right? She didn't walk until about 13 months. It was like right at 13 months. You're like, okay, cool, whatever. And then our second daughter was a bit sooner than that. We're like, well, she wants to keep up with her sister. Of course she's walking. So we're like, oh, Hannah's going to be walking at like 9 months. Are you kidding me? Not even close. Yeah. Like she's 17 months now and still like, you're lucky to get her to walk. And now I'm like forcing it on her, like really forcing it. We walk into daycare. I'm not carrying her. I'm like, I'm putting you on the ground and I'm going to make you stand up and we're going to walk and she's going to take 5 steps and be like, no. And she's going to go down to the ground and want to crawl. And I'm going to pick her right back up. And like, this is how it's been for the last several weeks. Cause I'm like, you have shoes on for a reason.
Does she? So she can take like 5 steps?
Oh yeah. She just doesn't want to.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm way faster on my knees, Dad.
Yeah.
Like, this is so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because of the sisters. If she's like, I want to be able to keep up as fast as possible. This is like really slow process. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard.
So like in that circumstance with that, what is a good approach for me to take with that and like trying to help her walk more efficiently, give her that confidence that like you can.
Yeah. So I would look at where she's at, right? And is it that it's really hard for her? Again, like I don't know her. I've never laid eyes on her, but was she slower in meeting other milestones that there could be something like underlying that's making it tricky? Is it just like she just needs more opportunities to play, right? And like play in that position. So maybe it's adding in opportunities for kids to work on cruising more, right? So you're playing with her favorite toy and you pop it up and to get the pieces, she's got to cruise left to right along the couch and working on that confidence there and just getting some of those repetitions in those skills, right? So looking at what are these foundations that she needs to build in order to get there? And being mindful of like, if you and your gut are like, oh, like she still feels like it's hard for some reason, then, getting a professional to kind of help you lay eyes on like, maybe it's tricky for her for a particular reason. Maybe it's just a matter of she just needs more time, right? And kids develop at different paces with different opportunities too.